Hello, everyone. We're just giving everyone a couple of minutes to join the webinar. So while we wait for folks, why don't people who are already on the call drop their name, their industry in the chat? And it would also be fun if you could share your favorite use for AI. I think that could be a fun one. So name, industry, and favorite use of AI. Let's give it another minute or so. I'll share my favorite use while folks are waiting, since folks are maybe shy. There's so many ways, obviously, to use it, but one of my favorites is to use it to plan vacations. Um, you can put in the parameters of kind of any quirks of your family or whoever you're traveling with and ask it to give you recommendations or ask it to plan a trip to a specific destination. As with everything, you always have to like vet it because I have definitely shown up to a museum that was closed. So that's one thing. Um, Meal planning, meal prep is another good one. If folks are so inclined with whatever nutritional requirements that you have. So there are some just kind of like some fun things, easy things that we can use it for as well. You not use AI yet. Generating funny pet videos. I like that. Marilyn, um, not using it. Sarah, healthcare. Erica, answer questions I don't feel comfortable asking others. I love that. I don't know if I love that. I just think that's interesting. How about that? Well, thanks everyone for sharing. For others that have joined, I was just asking folks to share their name, industry, and fun uses of AI. And please feel free to continue to share that. But I would love to welcome everyone to our live event. Never Miss Top Talent Again, how AI handles the busy work in hiring so you can build a better team. I know that's a mouthful, but we think we're going to be able to deliver on that today. Just to give you a little bit of context in terms of how our time together is going to flow, we're going to spend the first 30 minutes having a conversation. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll open it up for Q&A. We'll do a live Q&A. There are some of you that pre-submitted questions, so we do plan to address those. If any of you have any questions that were account specific, I think there might have been a handful of those that came in as well. We'll follow up with you specifically to talk about your account, but we will be answering, any other questions live here during the session. A couple of housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded. We will be able to share it with you afterwards, so that hopefully, the only thing that means is, you can feel free to be as engaged as you can and not worry about taking notes, as I often will. You will also notice at the bottom of the Zoom webinar screen, there is an icon that says chat, which is where many of you are kind of dropping in your notes about, your favorite uses of AI. That's where we'll use to have conversation with each other. There's also an icon that is Q&A with the question mark. That's where I'm going to ask you to drop your questions that we will be answering during the live Q&A session. So that is a little bit about the flow of our time together. To kick it off, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Carmen Bryant. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Wizehire. I have been here for almost 3 years. It'll be 3 years this September, and the time has flown by. It has been really exciting to get to work with small and growing businesses and really partnering with them to help them figure out how to solve their hiring challenges, hopefully in a stress-free, low-stress way. And one of the reasons I was so interested in coming to work for Wizehire is because it was so unique to see a company like Wizehire that really had a human-first approach to hiring. Hopefully, if you all have worked with Wizehire before, you're familiar with our coaches or our strategic relationship managers, and you know that in addition to the software and the solution that we provide, you can actually talk and work with real people, and it is embedded into our product, so to speak. And so that was really compelling for me. And so it's been really interesting over the past 6 months as we've been able to sort of blend that human first approach to hiring and then complement it with AI, which is what we are here to talk about. So to kick off that conversation, I'm really excited to bring forward our CEO and co-founder, Sid, who's going to share a bit about, what we've been working on here. And I thought it would be great if we could start by just sort of, hearing a bit more about you, Sid, and, your background, your role here. What does it mean to be CEO at Wizehire? And maybe even why you founded Wizehire.
Carmen, first off, thanks for organizing these. These are our favorite time of the month to really like learn as a group in the community. So thanks for everyone joining today. Wizehire is a decades-long passion for us. Y'all got into business to change your lives, your communities, work with incredible customers. We wake up every morning, to help you fulfill that dream. Carmen, you and I talked so much about why we got started. Wizehire was an accident. We saw an opportunity to help people. We were, doing enterprise hiring and kept asking ourselves, how can we make it easier for the gym down the street or the local cinema to find great talent? And I think for the last decade, we've been saying our job and our responsibility for our customers is to take care of the busy work so you can focus on building relationships. And I feel like our launch today with Scout is the next generation of Wizehire. It's fulfilling that mission more than we even expanded or even imagined. So it's going to be a lot of fun today.
So before I start asking Sid questions, we'll have a chat. Sid, you can ask me questions too if you want, even though you might already know them. I thought it'd be great for us to hear from folks on the call. Actually, I think it would be great for us to kick off with the poll so that we can hear a bit about what your hiring challenges are. So, yeah, here we go. So, what are your top hiring challenges? I give folks a little bit of time to respond, but just curious to know. Yeah, these are some of the things that like we hear. So I'm curious to see how much like what we hear from folks on the call here today will align or, maybe be unique from what we're hearing from customers, every day.
I think currently we have multiple choice here, and I definitely like from my conversations with folks on the ground, it's like a lot of these are problems. So I
Yeah.
think it'll be really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I know giving multiple choice,
Everything's a problem. Everything's a problem.
everything is a problem. Yeah, I would hone in on the word top. Just say what are your top hiring challenges. Um, so
Hey, every month, National Federation of Small Businesses asks the question, hiring is the top three problem, no matter the month.
yeah, yeah. All right, great. I'll give it 10 more seconds so if folks just want to like wrap it up and then we can see the results. Got the ear of the CEO of Wizehire.
We're going to build products based on this.
Okay, let's see. What do we have? Okay, the top challenges, finding enough qualified candidates. So of the 14 folks that responded, 100% had finding enough qualified candidates, which is interesting. Um, we also have up there, I see candidate ghosting or poor communication in second place, and then high employee turnover retention and uncertainty about using AI in the hiring process. Okay, not surprising, but certainly very, very interesting. And Sid, you are on calls with our sales team and talking to customers every day. You are working very, very closely with our product team. How much do these align with what customers are saying, or how do they, differ in terms of, what we're hearing like out in the wild?
This is exactly what we hear, right? The story first starts with disengagement and turnover, which then leads to a conversation about someone trying to hire on their own. Everyone's job market is so different. We hear about it's easier for our friend in Des Moines and our friend in like in Austin. We try to hire in our own market, and we're getting vastly different results. So yeah, this all resonates for sure.
Yeah. What would you say? I thought it was really interesting we had uncertainty and AI in there, right? Because we talk a lot about AI and how to use AI. And, for folks on the call, I'll often talk to my team about this idea of like, it should be a butler, it should be facilitating your life. It shouldn't be a busybody, right? We want to make it easier. But, you know, as we talk about it, and we talk about it specifically in the context of small and growing businesses, there's a lot of different ways people are thinking about it. Um, I think it'd be great for you to share your thoughts on, how should folks on the call be thinking about how to use AI in the process, and where do you think it can have the most impact, and where do you think maybe you should avoid using it or avoid automation?
Yeah. And I know in a little bit you'll show some slides here, so I'll be a little bit more like meta first. Uncertainty is a very, very fair way to feel about it, leveraging AI. We've gone through what feels like a decade of technology innovation in like 2 years, where, 2 years ago, this thing was writing like, crazy things that didn't exist. And today it's able to do a lot more. Belief and trust, I think, is the first thing that not just Wizehire, but every company out there that is leveraging AI needs to deliver, because the journey that we're on with these products is to, as we believe, earn the trust of the user, then start doing a little bit of the work, getting feedback until you can fundamentally let it do the work. So many of the problems right now that we're seeing with a lot of companies is they're deploying products for really big companies. It's battle tested for like an Amazon or whatever the case. That's not going to work on Main Street. Their problems are completely different, and so the uncertainty totally makes sense. So I wonder, Carmen, maybe we should talk a little bit about just broadly speaking, leveraging AI in the business before we even
Yeah.
get to hiring, because I feel like that's like a perfect way to like think about like our worldview. I'll let you talk a little bit about it, and then I can kind of pepper in some
Yeah,
thoughts.
I mean, I think the preamble that I'll sort of share with folks on the call is that, AI in hiring, I think you make a valid point. It's not just about AI in hiring, it's about AI in business. And it's a challenge and a question that we ask ourselves here at Wizehire. And we've thought a lot about how do we want to leverage AI, and how we should be using it, to think about problems that we need to solve for. And the benefit of being at a human first organization is that we always want to make sure that we are using it as a butler and facilitating and making people's lives easier and helping them to solve problems. And so one of the frameworks that we really looked at was this idea of like, what is client facing versus what is back office? And then what are things that we have to do to just keep the lights on? Just you have to do it, and I think that's with any business or any function. And then what are the things that are actually going to drive value and
Yeah.
drive outcomes? And for us, that is, obviously client satisfaction, your, satisfaction and benefit. Um, and, this is kind of how we sort of laid this out. We really want to, you know, think about it in terms of like, how do we use it in a way so that we can automate the things that are not driving value, that are required to keep the business going, keep the lights on, so that we can actually spend our time where we can make a difference and add value. And I think that was the lens through which we started thinking about how we could apply this to customers as well.
I think in a moment like this, whether you're running a business, you're working with customers, you're a job seeker, there's a lot of anxiety with AI. And I hope like this framework that like Aaron shared helps you kind of think about your own part of the business, whether it's the hiring process or how you're working with customers, and think about that like place that is appropriate for AI. Because I think like at least internally we keep having this conversation, which is like humans we're like inherently these social animals. Most of us, unlike the people that are building these systems, are spending time on the phones working with customers day in and day out. We're writing an email, someone walks in the door, and that's customer conversations and opportunities for us to build long-term relationships. The things that we really think AI can help with are more of that back office routine things, where right now it may feel like there isn't a software solution for it. It's something that requires a lot more dynamic thinking. And we'll look at hiring from the same worldview, where we think that the places that y'all can spend the most time, the most effective use of a hiring manager's time, is in meeting with candidates, interviewing, and it's our responsibility to bring y'all tools and technology to do the busy work. scheduling that interview, making sure that job post is great, highlighting great candidates. And I think we'll dive a little bit more into it. But hopefully, even if you don't take anything away on hiring and AI, hopefully this like way of thinking about leveraging technology today in your business and the right place to implement it. Because, if we implement AI in a very customer facing way, you could be losing opportunities to actually earn more trust, earn more reputation, earn more, strengthen the relationship, and just something to have in the back of your mind, I think.
I'm going to ask another question of folks on the call. If you could have AI handle one hiring task for you immediately, what would it be? Um, just curious. Um, and hopefully we haven't biased you. I think we probably have a point of view
Oh
here,
yeah, yeah.
but but for sure.
I'm actually really excited about this one because I know we have a lot of ideas for where we want to go with the technology we'll show off today, but the best ideas come from like those on the call right now.
Yeah, yeah. And often we'll, share something that, we may not have recognized as being as crucial a problem as it actually is. Why don't we give folks like a few more seconds and then we can see what the responses are. I say this is your opportunity. Okay, let's see. I think we had a handful of folks. Let's see what the responses are. Oh, so I don't see the actual answers. I just see that folks got it, but that's okay. As we talk throughout, if you want to drop it in chat, that works. So
We can
like,
probably get it afterwards too, and
yeah, we can
go
probably
into
get
the
it
Q&A.
afterwards, but if you want to drop it in
Yeah,
chat, and we'll ask another follow-up question a little bit later on to get some additional context. But all the folks who are on the call today are going to get a sneak preview of something that is hot off the presses. Today, literally today, we just launched a new offering and a new solution called Wizehire Scout. And it is really designed to help, address some of the problems that you all have shared with us. Sid, why don't you talk a little bit, maybe you talk a little bit about what Scout, what it is, what it can do, and then maybe, we can then do some showing as well.
love it. Um, I think the framework I'd share here first is that there's a lot of innovation that's happening in the largest companies in the world right now. And again, our responsibility to y'all is study them and bring it down so that, in your day-to-day, you have the best technology, the ability and the tools to help you win. One thing that we recognize though is that the problems of the biggest companies are just not similar to what's happening on Main Street. A lot of AI innovation and recruiting right now is all about outbound prospecting to job seekers for really hard to fill roles because yes, we have hard to fill roles on Main Street, but the hard to fill roles in like Microsoft are dramatically different and the way you recruit there are dramatically different. And so as we thought about our opportunity and every conversation we've had with customers, it's often that the even the pain points we just heard at the top of the call, ghosting, great fits, this is a problem of finding a needle in a haystack and connecting with the right talent at the right time. I've been at like several hospitality shows this year, and the theme has been for I think half a decade in hotels, right? Folks are not showing up for the interview, and then you go and talk to the candidate that had an interest in the job, and it's simply the fact that a larger company that has a army of resources and recruiters got to them before the solo innkeeper could reach out to them. And so as we thought about Scout, and we'll show off Scout in a little bit, it was really to do the busy work so that you have the advantage of that enterprise behind you, hundreds of recruiters behind the scenes, scouring resumes, highlighting the right place. Because if you have 5 minutes of time that you can spend at Wizehire, how do we ensure you're spending your time in the right place with the right candidate to ensure you can foster those connections? Whether that, and then for us, the job is to, find that talent, appraise you of it, ultimately with your permission, do a lot of the busy work, reach out to them, set up the interview, ensure they show up to the interview. And I think that's a lot of what we'll show off later today.
Yeah. Well, Sid, why don't we do a bit of the showing part now of the show and tell, so folks can get a sneak peek.
Let's do it. For those that aren't active Wizehire customers, I'll start with like a brief primer on how we post jobs, and then I'll show off what happens after candidates apply, and then we'll really get into the meat of what Wizehire Scout is capable of doing. Scout is your AI assistant, personalized to your company, your needs, and is going to be focusing on all the busy work, and you'll see Scout throughout the product. This is a page that a lot of y'all have seen. I'm gonna fly through it, but our job at Wizehire is to speak your language, right? My favorite example, going back to our roots in real estate, is to say if I'm hiring for a realtor, that could be a dramatically different set of roles because there's so much specialization in our industry. Um, Scout asks the questions that you know the answers to, not the questions that alternative solutions will have that are very oriented to like HR, right? Asking the 50 questions that we just don't know the answer to. Fundamentally, if you're running a small business or have a lot on your plate, this one question is going to drive a lot of the hiring process that we'll build for you. In this case, for real estate, are you providing leads or not? We'll go and answer that question. Thoughts, a little bit more information. There's a question about match that I think I scanned in the chat. We'll chat a little bit about that. You'll see here that we're bringing more insights to the table with Scout, here with compensation recommendations, insights on the difficulty to fill that role. As we go through posting, this is going to become more and more the most important page in posting a job, which is asking us or telling us what matters to you, the questions, things that are the most important, going into our bank of data to find more questions or more skill assessments or personality assessments. Um, all of this, as you'll see later in the product, we turn into filters to help you find the right fit. I'll actually jump to a job that's kind of been posted in one of our demo environments. This one right here, that's an inside sales agent, I think might be a really good one. This is such a common dashboard that a lot of our customers have seen. They've got lots of candidates and not enough time and where to focus your effort. Prior to Scout, the way a lot of us did that was going through the answers to screening questions. Now, here's the one thing that's gone on in the last 4 or 5 years. Job seekers are applying to a lot of jobs. They're not following through on screening questions. One of the top challenges that we heard, obviously, is finding qualified candidates and enough of them. So often, there's great job seekers in this pool, but with 410 candidates, if someone hasn't answered a question, how can you possibly find them? Because oftentimes you don't have the time to go through every single resume. We'll show off how Wizehire Scout solves a little bit of that problem, which really is with, and I'll pull up Thomas Franco as my perfect example. Here, Wizehire Scout has, with our, almost now decades old talent match technology, been highlighted as a good fit. They have a, average DISC personality assessment fit. If you're leveraging DISC for your hiring process, they've got the experience that we're looking for. They've got the achievement of, generating the lead, of being in lead gen, but they don't have a license. One of the most powerful things that Scout first does, and if you see the icon for Scout throughout the product, this is always going to bring a little bit of delight, we think, in the experience, is to give like a plain language view of how to think about this person's fit. Um, 2 years ago, if Thomas had applied and not answered all the questions, they wouldn't have been highlighted as a good fit because we literally didn't have the answers. What Wizehire Scout is doing, and this is the real deep work that we're so excited about behind the scenes, is Wizehire Scout is literally reading this person's full job resume to understand every bit of fit that you're looking for. And so those gems of candidates that maybe missed a text message or missed an email, but were really qualified, but were hidden in your applicant tracking system, we can now elevate them and appraise you of them. In this example, Thomas filled out 2 out of 3 answers. They didn't fill out the most important answer. And what Wizehire Scout did was go through the resume line by line to understand, do they have the real estate license? And determine, hey, they don't have it. So this Carmen, I'll pause there before I kind of dive in, is probably one of the first ways that Scout can help, which is to really spend hours scouring through your database so you have to spend less time. And we think this technology is just going to get better and better over time.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that it was also interesting because I know we're gonna do some live Q&A towards the end, but there was a really interesting comment that I think was just dropped into the chat, which is this idea around screening out candidates who lack kind of basic qualifications and skills and or not geographically
Yeah.
have proximity to the role. Are these all things that Scout will help facilitate?
Yeah. So actually the last year behind the scenes what we've been working on is location as a great example. With the ability for people to apply for remote jobs, we've seen an influx of candidates, right? Again, we could be looking at this demo environment of 400 candidates, and for some of our roles, when we know it's a great role, we'll get 200 people overnight, but half of them are more than 50 miles away. So that's an example where behind the scenes with AI, Scout is looking at address information, mapping it on literally Google Maps and doing that calculation of, can this person literally make the commute to get there to work? Again, examples of information that a job seeker, if they're very qualified, they're going to probably spend less time on the application. Can we go ahead and identify that so you can immediately and instantly have a sense if they're qualified for your must-haves and your deal breakers? Yep.
Yeah, love that. And I know we've talked about this on previous webinars, but I do want to mention like one of the reasons we've been not one of the reason, the primary reason that we've been doing that work is because that has become such a much more pervasive issue
Yes.
and something that we, endeavor to solve so that it doesn't take up so much of your time, right? The busy work.
I mean, look, we're having a conversation right now about AI and hiring, and there's also this alternate dialogue that's happening, which is tools and technology to enable job seekers in this moment in time to apply to lots of jobs. And there may be, a need for the job seeker to do that, but there's actually less completion of the applications. And so if you're reliant on screening questions, which are some of those powerful ways to just be really diligent and thoughtful about how you run your process, not having the answers from the right candidate, that's just missing out on opportunities. I feel like, Carmen, as we built Scout, one of our constant themes is this idea of missed connections, not just in work, but in all of our lives, where it's like just being there at the right moment, having that right conversation with the right person could change everything in our personal lives and our business. And so I share that actually as a preamble for this other feature that launched today for all customers on all plans, which is starting to bring a bit more focus on how you can best use your time. These are recommended actions where Scout now has taken over the top half of your dashboard and will actually highlight if you've only got a few minutes of time, which again, we all know that we're working between, three things at a time. We're being pulled in all these directions. We're on our phone for half of it. It's, we want to like draw your attention to the most top priority, things to spend time on. So here's an example where, if I've got, just 2 minutes, I'm in between meetings, I've got a client coming in, but there's an incredible opportunity for me to find a great fit candidate and reach out to them. Let's go ahead and appraise you of it so you can take that action, message them, and pull them through the process. Because so often, especially when we launched our matching technology, we saw that great fit candidates are hired at 3, 4x the rate. The time to hire is faster. But the thing that we kept realizing was there were so many great fit candidates that didn't get seen or they were seen too late. And so as we interviewed a lot of folks and maybe on the call or customers like you, we realized candidate ghosting came down to this problem, which was someone raised their hand. They wanted to work with your organization, but someone else got to them faster. And it sucks because the places that these candidates end up is typically larger companies that have dedicated recruiters that are doing this activity and knowing where to spend time. And so we're so excited about this feature that I think is also going to drive a tremendous impact in hiring. The few customers that have been using it in beta, we know have actually seen almost like a 80% reduction in their time to hire, which is like, I can't wait to like confirm that with more people, but it's emblematic of the potential here for sure.
Um, I am, first of all, always so shocked by how quickly time flies. And I want to, first of all, I'll let you continue this. I wanted to ask one more question before we start opening it up to more Q&A. And I know we have, some folks on the call who are also legal and law as well, but I think this could be relevant to others. We've talked a bit about trust quite a bit. And um, I think for all of us, right? It's when we think about AI, we hear a lot about hallucinations. We hear a lot about just there's just like a lot of conversation around it. And I think, one of the things that I know we've talked about a lot is trust and transparency as it relates to our use of AI, especially in hiring.
Yeah.
where it's such a, important and consequential decision that we have to make. Um, it's probably good to also just share a bit with how we thought about that and incorporated that into, Scout and the solution.
Yeah. So you probably saw the example of explainability, where one of the big themes in the entire organization was this technology. Not only do we have to understand its accuracy, but we need to understand how it got to the answer. Because fundamentally, like there's still so much about these LLMs, large language models, that like the world doesn't know yet, right? We're throwing lots of data at it. Has it seen this exact scenario? Is it overfitting? There's all this like geeky stuff that goes on behind the scenes. But again, our responsibility is to make this stuff simple and accessible and earn your trust along the way. So before Scout does features that are about to launch, like helping you book interviews or follow up with candidates, it has to earn your trust and help you understand that a great fit was made on this determination. The criteria that you told us is how we came to this conclusion. This is the data that was missing, and how do we go about answering that question? That's one element of trust. I think the other aspect, Carmen, is really where we think AI and compliance and regulatory action are going to go. Hiring is a highly regulated world. A lot of our coaches spend time with customers, appraising them of everything from EEOC requirements to local and state requirements. And one thing that has been happening is that AI is fairly regulated in hiring. So, actually, going back probably 3 years, 4 years ago, when New York City, Colorado launched AI bias laws, we spent a lot of time to actually get ahead of that, to have, again, with explainability, a lot of, you know, hard work to ensure that we're compliant. And so that's one thing that we can't hold our a high bar to, which is our responsibility is to not only make this easy, but to ensure that you've got the most compliant technology that's staying ahead of the curve in where your local regulations and things may be going. So that's been like an important bit as well, and earning trust and ensuring you're staying on the right course. It's because this technology can do a lot of things, and sometimes it's unintended has unintended consequences.
Yeah, I think that's like really critical because we're at the beginning of this conversation and dialogue now, right? Like, I imagine that it will only intensify
Yeah.
as it is incorporated into more and more of the hiring process. Um, we have about 15 minutes left in our session, our conversation. There are for sure more questions I could ask, but I also want to open it up for others to ask questions if you want to drop it in the Q&A or in the chat. We would love to hear from you and answer your burning questions about AI and hiring or Wizehire Scout. Um,
I'm looking through these questions, and one more bit on just trust, compliance, and feedback is, you know, throughout all these AI experiences as we launch them, there are always going to be thumbs up, thumbs down buttons for you to give feedback, for these models to get more tuned to your, your intricacies of your hiring process. Because I think there's a dialogue happening, and I'm very, very slow at reading this, so my apologies. But our baseline recommendations are based on the screening questions that you choose, and if you have DISC as a personality assessment enabled, or a skill assessment like Spanish or something enabled. But that's a baseline. As you give more feedback, it'll go ahead and over time become more refined to what you're looking for. I think there's a lot of work for us to do where we have a high bar for all these filters that we'll auto populate or auto estimate answers for. That's based on us studying resumes, studying answers, coming up with conclusions. There's more that we have to do. So there's a great conversation right now about cover letters, the absence of it. Can we do scanning of it? These are all things that are possible. Again, with feedback, more conversations. So like, Daniel, definitely I'll be reaching out afterwards to like learn a little bit more so we can further customize this for like y'all's needs.
Danielle also asked an interesting question. This is a new one. I don't know that, I mean, I'm sure coaches probably have, but Danielle asked, does Wizehire have an easy integration with Slack now? So candidates who message directly could pull into a Slack channel for faster real-time responses.
So what we've done with communication is we've gone this is a great topic. We've gone towards email. We've recently rolled out SMS because so many of our customers have been talking with job seekers that are not always on all of the communication channels. I think one thing we've maybe I'm recognizing in this is we need to also think about where our customers are spending time. So if you are in that office setting and more so on Slack and less so on mobile, that's something we got to build out. Right now, I think the suggestion I'd give would probably be using Zapier to send notifications if someone sends you an email. But I'm taking notes, and let's like see if we can like bring some of this to reality, because definitely the opportunity with this technology is just to simplify workflows, because in some sense you may spend in fact less time on Wizehire because we'll just be doing all this work for you and bringing you the right information, whether it's email, mobile, or another system. So definitely Slack's a great suggestion. Let us look into that.
I'm going to keep asking questions, but folks, feel free to drop them in the Q&A or the chat. Um, I talked a bit about sort of like our approach to human first hiring, and we have YS hire coaches, we have strategic relationship managers. I believe we have some of our, amazing customers on the call who are working with them right now. How do you differentiate like AI and Scout, right? Who is essentially help like we've called it a recruiting assistant, AI powered recruiting assistant. How do you differentiate that between what our coaches and our SRMs provide?
Yeah. So look, in we've gone on a journey where our team has done much of the busy work behind the scenes on behalf of customers. And Scout not only is helping, we think, employers to find great fits faster, but we think it's actually also going to take on more of the busy work, enabling our team to spend more time with customers doing advisory work. And I'll give a perfect example of this. So, a lot of people I think have seen this, but when job seekers get stuck in your hiring process, we've done this for a long time. We believe that in order to ensure you are working with the right candidate at the right time, we'll even try to help that job seeker get unstuck. If they're having computer problems, if they're having like, if they need to switch from English to Spanish as an example, our team, we literally have a team of coaches that are working with job seekers to get unstuck in the hiring process. More of that we think can be done by Scout and other AI systems, which then free up our team to have those advisory calls with y'all. When you sign up for Wizehire, one of the first questions that you're asked is obviously your industry, size of the company, level of experience, which helps us customize your experience. But also, I think my favorite question is, what's the best time we can connect with you? What's the best time that we can reach you, and how? Because that's how our team, we literally design the day of our coaches to reach out to you and give you insights. And I think that we have a very high bar for what we can do there. I think we're just getting started because, every day we have conversations with customers that open our eyes to like more education and more advice that we can give. And yeah, we have to like, answer the call.
I have a question for you, Sid, and actually for everyone else. We're talking a little bit about the future of Scout. And I want to hear from folks on the call, what is a feature or capability that you'd like to see Wizehire Scout have? Um, and then Sid, I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of the roadmap there. But yeah, like what would be really helpful? Like what would um, solve problems for you if you had, something that Wizehire Scout could do, or, AI, whatever the AI, offering is. Um, for sure we have a point of view in terms of it can be most effective and most powerful when we're thinking about some of those things that are like busy work, or, things that require less of the soft skills or the strategic thinking. Um, I know for folks that have customer facing hires or people in the service industry, there's an aspect to that where you have to see that person in person and in action. But what are the other things that, AI could potentially solve for you? And I see a few things coming in here. Um, Call references. Honestly, sometimes even scheduling the call reference would be helpful, because I feel like whenever I've had to do this, it's like so much time, even just kind of getting it on the calendar. So that's a good one. Create custom interview questions based on resume and disc. I like that. Um, a hard no screening out process for unqualified candidates. Reduce mental clutter. First of all, I love that phrase, mental clutter. Um, and I think that can become a mantra for how we
Yeah.
think about how we solve problems for folks. Allow for a document to be sent to a applicant. Yeah, these are some great ones. I think, please continue like any way that you think AI and Scout can help, solve challenges for you. Sid, what's in store for
Yeah.
Scout?
So while we were chatting, I had a chance to look through the chat, and actually a couple of the ideas that have been posted are actually on the roadmap, which is really exciting, and some more will work in. So I think Chris earlier at the top of the call was talking about hot versus cold candidates, right? Like where's the state of the relationship with this candidate? I think we've done a separate webinar on this, but like maybe to step back a little bit, we're big believers that the way hiring is going is it's more about this network of talent that you're nurturing to make the next role easier and easier to fill. Obviously, if you've got a burning need for a candidate, we've got to solve the problem with a typical funnel approach. Let's get a lot of candidates. Let's run them through a process. But one thing I'm having a lot of conversations with, especially some of our multi-location customers and those that are always hiring, is that when someone raises their hand for a role, they may not be the great fit for it, but they've raised their hand to be interested in your company. And that's an opportunity to develop a relationship and think about how they may fit into either an active role right now or a future role. And so these are some places where right now, actually, Scout can actually be very, very impactful. Um, so first off, if you're on one of our growth plans or concierge plans, we have our campaigns product. I think we're launching some new AI-driven templates for that. Separate conversation, but our goal with the campaigns, Chris, to your point, is to actually nurture the relationship automatically for you, right? Not in a canned way, but in a very deeply personalized way. Because again, if you've got 50 people applying right now and half don't have licenses, if you're in like a highly regulated space, those are not people that are disqualified. They're disqualified today. But if they're interested in pursuing a license, let's build a relationship. So I think one angle there, Carmen, is let's build this large, talent pool. Let's match them into the roles that they're a great fit for today. But we're Scout, and especially with this ability when you answer screening questions or inform us of the screening questions that matter, we really think the value is in the next hire. Because in the next role, what you'll see, I think, very imminently is when you post a role, yes, we're going to post it live. We'll go get active job seekers, but we owe you the insights of, hey, Tom, who applied 2 months ago, is actually a great fit for this role. And if you call him right now, you might actually just save yourself a lot of time. That's one example of matchmaking that we're really excited about. Alex pointed another question out, which was interview scheduling. This you're going to see very quickly, actually. We're actively working on this. We're going to enable this capability for roles where, given our data and what Scout's aware of, that have the likelihood of getting a lot of candidates, which means that they'll probably enter the market, leave the market. For high fit, you can decide high fit or good fit candidates. We'll actually go ahead and do the automated scheduling. And most importantly, with our automated scheduler that's been live for a little while, we're going to introduce follow-ups because that's been one of the most effective ways, like text message follow-ups, to reduce ghosting. So those are a couple ways that Scott's going to just like do again that busy work for you. So there's a couple ideas there, Carmen.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Um, yeah, I mean, we're pretty close to time. I really want to thank everyone for all of the questions that you submitted, whether prior or, right now in the chat. Before we wrap up, I did want to sort of give sort of like just give you a shout out for our next webinar, which will be June 26th, at 2 o'clock Eastern. We're going to have Scott Hops, the head of operations from Lark Hospitality, talking about how he scaled his business, and did it, with a service-oriented kind of human-first mindset. So stay tuned for invitations and insights for that. As I mentioned, we'll be sharing today's recording. You'll get a quick survey. Your feedback is super invaluable. Please reach out directly with any questions that you have. You can also reach out to us at team@wizehire.com. Sid, before we kind of, wrap it up, any final thoughts, any
No, I just think thank you for the opportunity to serve y'all. We wake up every morning excited to help y'all find great talent. There were a lot of questions that I know we couldn't get to with the limited time. Expect some personalized follow up there, whether it's on building custom interviews, building better job descriptions, the SEO compliance bit. I definitely want to follow up on. But yeah, again, the best ideas come from y'all. We wake up excited to help y'all at the end of the day. So thanks again for the opportunity. And Carmen, always fun to connect and have a great conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Cheers, y'all. Bye.